Today, we're diving deep into the future of women's rights in Iran. And believe me, that future hinges on a single monumental crisis that could change everything. Let's get right into it. So, picture this. It's March 2026. After a devastating military strike, Iran's supreme leader is dead. Just like that. The country is immediately plunged into a massive power vacuum. This one event, this single moment, sets the stage for everything that comes next. And right at the heart of this storm, the women of Iran. To really understand where Iran might be heading, we have to look back. We need to talk about what was gained and then so catastrophically lost. 1979, the Islamic Revolution. That was the moment everything changed, wiping out decades of progress for women almost overnight. A huge part of this story is something called the Family Protection Law. It was first passed back in 1967 and then made even stronger in 75. This was a really big deal, a landmark law that started to shift the balance of power inside a marriage. But then, in 1979, poof, the Islamic Revolution just declared it null and void. Gone. I mean, look at this contrast. It is just night and day. Before 79, women had the legal power to file for divorce themselves and to actually fight for custody of their own children. The law even put limits on a man's ability to just end a marriage whenever he felt like it. After 79, all of that just vanished. Men got back the absolute right to divorce, and women were left with almost no legal ground to stand on. And then there's this, and it's just one of the most shocking reversals: the minimum age for a girl to get married. Under the Family Protection Law, it was raised to 18. Makes sense, right? Well, after the revolution, it was dropped, all the way down to just 9 years old. Think about the devastating impact of that, ending the childhood and education of so many girls. And of course, this legal collapse had immediate real-world consequences, especially for the economy. You can see it right here. Female participation in the workforce just plummeted. Women were systematically pushed out of their jobs, out of public life. They even passed new laws that barred women from being judges. The message was loud and clear. A woman's place was at home. Okay, let's fast forward to today. The state's methods of control they've gotten a high-tech upgrade. After the massive woman life freedom protests, having morality police on every street corner became way too risky, too explosive. So what did the regime do? It turned to technology, building this huge digital surveillance network to enforce its will. And that network has a name, the Noor Plan, which means Project Light. Now, this isn't just about a few extra cameras on the street. No way. This is a comprehensive, state-run digital system built for one specific purpose: to police women's bodies by enforcing mandatory hijab laws using algorithms and automated punishment. So, how does this actually work in real life? Well, facial recognition systems at a university entrance can automatically see if a student isn't wearing a hijab and just deny her access. There are even informants apps called Nazar that let any citizen snap a photo of a woman not wearing a hijab in her own car, send it to the authorities, and automatically trigger a warning or a fine. The whole system is designed for mass, impersonal, algorithmic control. But here's the ultimate threat. This is the endgame. For women who get flagged repeatedly, the algorithm can be programmed to automatically freeze their bank accounts. And that's the final turn of the screw, isn't it? It's not just social control anymore. It's about severing a woman from her financial lifeline, from her ability to buy food, to pay rent, to survive. But this fight for legal protection in Iran, it isn't some new thing. It actually has really deep historical roots. And that's what makes the rollbacks of 1979 feel like such a profound betrayal of a long, long legal tradition. I mean, if you go way back, all the way to the pre-Islamic Sassanid Empire, women's rights were literally written into the law. A husband couldn't just divorce his wife on a whim. There were only 4 very specific, legally defined reasons he could do it. This gave women a kind of institutional shield against just being abandoned, and it established this principle of legal protection that you see echoing throughout Iran's history. Okay, so all that history brings us right back to our starting point, 2026. The supreme leader is gone, the country is in chaos. What happens next? Well, analysts have pretty much mapped out 4 potential futures for Iran, and each one has wildly different consequences for women. So, let's start with the darkest one. Scenario A, totalitarian survival. In this version, the hardliners in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, they seize absolute control. They use the war as an excuse to impose martial law and basically turn Iran into a nuclear-armed, totally isolated state. Think North Korea. And in this future, that digital Noor Plan gets replaced by something way more brutal. With the country's infrastructure damaged, the regime goes back to basics: raw physical force. Any woman who defies the rules isn't just getting a fine or a text message. She's branded an enemy spy and could be executed right there on the street by militias. Female dissent literally becomes treason. All right, the second possibility is what's being called the Maduro model, named after the regime in Venezuela. And it's a very cunning compromise. The regime basically offers up social freedoms as a kind of pressure valve, all to maintain its tight grip on political power. So this scenario gives you a facade of freedom. The mandatory hijab law gets tossed out to keep the public happy. Women in big cities like Tehran can wear whatever they want. But, and this is a huge but, the core power structure, the IRGC, the unelected judiciary, none of that changes. It remains completely untouched. So you get some social freedom, sure, but you lose the revolution. Real political change is completely off the table. Now, the third scenario, this is the one that so many people are hoping and fighting for: a swift democratic transition. In this future, the regime's own military refuses to fire on mass protests, which leads to a total collapse of the old guard. A brand new, secular republic is born from the ashes. The path here seems clear, right? The regime falls, a new constitution gets written with gender equality baked in right at its core, and, this part is so crucial, the women who suffered under the old regime are the ones empowered to lead the tribunals that bring the perpetrators to justice. This isn't just about reform, it would be a complete rebirth of the entire nation. And that brings us to the final and maybe most chaotic outcome: state fragmentation. This is where the central government in Tehran just collapses entirely. But no single group is strong enough to take its place. The country spirals into a brutal, multi-sided civil war, kind of like what we saw in Syria. And this scenario creates this brutal, unbelievable paradox. In areas controlled by remnants of the IRGC or local warlords and tribal forces, women's rights completely collapse. We're talking systematic rape, kidnapping, a regression to pre-modern conditions. Yet, at the very same time, in some autonomous ethnic regions, like Kurdistan, the collapse of that central state could actually open the door for radical feminist political experiments, places where women serve as co-commanders and build totally new egalitarian societies from the ground up. So, looking at these four wildly different futures, it leaves us with one final and really important question. What does true liberation for the women of Iran actually look like? Think about it. Which of these futures holds the most genuinely subversive power for liberation in the long run? Is it the false freedom of the Maduro model? Is it the chaotic, dangerous potential for radical self-governance that might bubble up out of a civil war? Or is it the long, hard, bloody struggle for true democracy? The answer is not simple, and it really forces you to question what the word liberation even means in this context. But no matter which path Iran takes, one thing is absolutely certain. From the legal codes of ancient empires to today's high-tech surveillance, the status of women has always been the true barometer of Iran's health as a nation. And looking ahead, that central truth is the one thing that remains unshakable. There is simply no future for Iran without rights for its women.